Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan with the chart guys. Bulls continue to grind higher. There's a lot of disbelief out there. I've taken my pedal off the gas a bit in the short term. We're going to look at all the major sectors where money is rotating, some smaller individual names like Tesla. We've got some major earnings coming up, and we'll look at some of the small subsectors like cannabis, psychedelics, quantum, crypto stocks, commodities, lots of stuff. As always, thanks for likes and shares and comments and interaction and all that. It definitely helps. So we have a strong grinding up bull market. And in last week's video, I talked about the possibility of a sucker punch, and we saw it in the semiconductors to start the week, but we didn't see this sucker punch in the broader market. Doesn't mean the risk is over for it, but again, we're not just going to sit there constantly looking to try and short and looking for a big fast drop. We're just aware that it can come out of seemingly nowhere when you're in a complacent grind up market. But what I've been doing is, after being an aggressive bull the last 3 or 4 weeks prior, this week I had my smallest green week in the last month plus, still solid, but again, sizing down a little bit, taking some profits, going back to some cash in the IRA, and that's my way of chilling out without aggressively trying to nail a top. I'm still not shorting because the market isn't giving me any reason to. Being overextended is not enough in blue sky breakout, and it's just one day at a time. And we continue to see observations where there's this pattern. July 1st, you had the NASDAQ and semiconductors dump. So here's July 1st. NASDAQ and semiconductors dumped. Healthcare and consumer staples shot up. They say, oh, that's unusual. Okay, start of a new quarter. Money rotating around from the leaders on the way up, semiconductors, big tech, to the laggards, names that haven't been performing as well. So, okay, that was cool. Then it happened again on July 10th, and not as meaningful, but let's just look at XLP, a sector I don't really care much about normally, but this was the 1st, this was the 10th, and then it happened again on the 22nd. Why does that matter? And I'm a bit shocked that no one's really talking about it, because it's such a nice signal when that happens. The first time you recognize something, okay, that's cool. The second time you recognize something, you say, okay, now we have a pattern. And then the third time it happens, you can capitalize on it. And so when we saw that dump on Wednesday, the NASDAQ and semiconductors dumped down really hard. We could say, okay, we've seen this before. And the last 2 times this has happened, after that dump bottoms, and it was on Tuesday, after that dump bottoms, that's the low of the day. And we'll know that if we hit a new low, we can say this time is different. But otherwise, we're going to look for the fast, hard drop to mark the low. We're going to look for semis in the NASDAQ to bounce from that point. And we're going to look for healthcare and consumer staples to consolidate a bit from that point. So, this isn't a home run, but if you're recognizing that, that can make your day. And so that's now the 3rd time this month that has happened. And every time that happens, it tells me it's healthy rotation. Because if I were only watching tunnel vision, NASDAQ and semiconductors, Tuesday I would have been like, oh man, here we go. This is the sucker punch. Bears are about to start weekly consolidation. And this is perhaps a shift in the market. But because I was watching these other sectors at the exact same time and able to say, I've seen this before, I knew that it was just fine for the bulls. This is what has kept bulls strong, this exact shifting and rotation. So I just love observing that stuff. And, I go on Twitter and talk about it and see no one else talking about it. And I'm like shaking everybody by the shoulders. Like, do you see this? Don't you see how cool this is? I'm a nerd. So NASDAQ, look at daily EMA 12. As I keep saying, we want simple statements. Okay, if daily EMA 12 is support, the bulls have absolute full control. Don't want to go by a moving average? Okay, go by that Tuesday low. That Tuesday low is a quick drop low. If we don't break it, we're going higher. Granted, the NASDAQ isn't entirely strong. As I said in last week's video, nobody's getting rich from the NASDAQ and the S&P 500 over the last 2 weeks. They're grinding steady or trading sideways, and there's profit rotation going on in these other smaller sectors. And so the NASDAQ, incrementally is getting a new all-time high, but not massively. And again, next time we see weekly consolidation, look at how much we can pull back. NASDAQ can drop down 8% to get to the weekly higher low. So let's just say we lose daily EMA 12 and we confirm a daily downtrend and drop 4%. That will not have any impact on my analysis of the longer term timeframes. So we're still in grind up mode. I'm looking for weekly consolidation. There's just no sign of it right now. If we're going to see weekly consolidation, it's going to originate in semiconductors, in my opinion, and they're weaker. So there was the big drop. The drop on Tuesday for semiconductors was the biggest 30-minute, 45-minute drop that the sector has seen in months. So that told me things are likely shifting a bit. What else shifted? Well, we closed under daily EMA 12 for the first time in a month plus, multiple months. So not by much, but again, just showing me things are shifting a little bit. And I look at this weekly chart and say, okay, this is the first time in 2 months where we have closed lower than the open. Not a drastic red flag, but again, we're just getting these little indications that things are shifting in the semiconductors. One of the major reasons I was looking for this shift is because NVDA had not touched daily EMA 12 in over a month. And so I said, we're probably going to touch daily EMA 12 pretty soon. We did. It was an hourly back burner. I love first hourly oversold conditions. It happened in extended hours, but that drop in regular hours on Tuesday was definitely an opportunity. And then we hit back to all-time highs. And so what I'm watching for is that a double top? If NVDA starts daily consolidation to start this coming week, and if we get another Monday with a big drop in the NASDAQ and semiconductors, long story short, I'm looking bearish in semiconductors in the short term. If you put a gun to my head and said, you got to short something, I'm scouting the semis. And I'm looking for SMH to set a daily lower high, anything under 293.53. And the question is then, do we confirm the first daily downtrend into weekly consolidation, which is extremely overdue? We have not seen any meaningful weekly consolidation since $184. I mean, we've gone up. That's insane, right? That's why there's so much disbelief behind this rally. But we went up 60% with no meaningful weekly consolidation, just a little sideways period mixed in there. So I'm looking for the first meaningful weekly consolidation. I'm not looking for a collapse. I'm looking for a pullback to weekly EMA 12, even just a bull flag. I'm looking for a 5% drop, at least to start. But I know that NVDA will have to weaken for that because NVIDIA hit that new high just to end this week. But all that said, I'm scouting an SMH daily lower high this coming week. The financial sector, weekly bull flag confirmed, new all-time highs. Just keeps going for the bulls. And again, last week, we talked about, this is a clear shift. Daily downtrend confirmed. All you do is zoom out. Okay, we're looking for the weekly high or low. I probably said there are absolutely no red flags whatsoever on this weekly chart. We're backtesting previous resistance as support. And so here we are at a new all-time high. And there are no red flags. So we're going to look for a daily high or low next consolidation in XLF. XLV has been interesting. Again, we get that rotation. Look at this perfect double bottom. So we ended last week really weak. And then this past week, the rotation happened. And that is big rotation. Look at that support. This was the weekly support, double top. Now we got a double bottom, must hold level. Rotation starts Monday, follows through Tuesday. Next thing you know, we're up 4.5% in just a few days. And so the direction this breaks is going to be very key for me. Again, because the number one question I've had recently in July, when semis top out, does everything drop with it or do we rotate? And so if this sideways healthcare range breaks bull as semis weekly consolidate, broader market is just fine. So we're going to be watching key 137.76 resistance. It's possible we reject from that level as we're a bit extended and then have to pull back and keep tightening up for a while. But we have our levels very clear. And this is going to have some solid implications for me. August and September, how does this range break? Does XLV act as a laggard and get to multiple month highs? Or does it stay a lead bear sector? And the biotech sector is similar. Look at the biotech sector on the daily. We've got a very clear resistance zone. We've got a very clear support zone, and we are just churning around and battling. And, when I'm looking at rotation, one thing I'm watching for is IWM, are we seeing rotation into growth stocks and low caps? And look at, so here's IWM. Okay, we're approaching some resistances, but I care more about IWM divided by SPY. And IWM divided by SPY, look at this range. And again, this chart shows us if it's going up, it shows us rotation into IWM. And if it's going down, it shows us, semiconductors or whatever else leading the way significantly. And so I'm watching this range, if I can draw it. So we got a zone of tops, a zone of bottoms. And if you look at the weekly chart, when's the last time this chart has been this sideways for months? And I don't think I can find a period where it's this tight in the last 7+ years. What does that tell me? That tells me pay attention, because when this range breaks, it's going to be meaningful in terms of where is capital rotating in markets. Watching this rotation in the broader market has been such a level up in the last 5 years of my overall trading to help me know when things are significantly shifting or when only a little pocket is seeing a significant shift and it doesn't have big picture implications. Because again, 5 years ago, I'm looking at the NASDAQ and semiconductors to start this week and I'm saying, uh-oh, here we go. This is the shift. And I would have been faked out. But it's because I'm watching all these components that I didn't get faked out this week. And so we'll see how this IWM divided by SPY chart breaks sometime in August, and that's going to be meaningful. Utilities got some rotation. They had a double top at all-time highs, unadjusted for dividends, bull flag, new all-time high. So again, just seeing money going around to other places. Also, rare earth. Look at rare earth. So rare earth topped out early 2022 like most of the market, was bearish 2022 like most of the market, but then as the market recovered, it just kept dumping. But look at this. Look at this massive volume. This is REMX, which is an ETF. And again, getting up to 1-year highs, 52-week highs, but it's putting in a long-term bottom. And if you look at the 6-month chart, you've got your all-time low, your surge of a multi-year high, a pullback for a 6-month high or low, and I'm watching for the possibility of a long-term equilibrium, but this can bottom and bounce for a while. And it's because of MP, and MP had some government news and it shot up, and you got, lithium stocks. Look at the 6-month here, 6-month higher low is now set, similar setup. So again, just keeping an eye on rare earths, and we know commodities have been doing well in terms of, platinum, gold, silver, doing really well the last year plus. But one of the books, I don't read market books often at all, but I did read this one, How to Listen When Markets Speak, and I enjoyed it. And it's, this person, Mr. McDonald's perspective. And the way I view it is, okay, that's interesting. I enjoyed the read. And this is one possible scenario of how things could play out. And his, dumbing it down into a nutshell, he talks about the history of the Fed and the printing and how the chickens are going to come home to roost and how, everybody's going into AI and all this. But, that we're going to see a big bust similar to .com, but with AI and, big tech companies. And as that happens, the rotation and the play will be into commodities. And so, do I think he's right? I have no idea. But, I like the theses. And again, same thing with, his name's slipping me. What's the melt up guy's name? Oh, sorry to do him disservice. I got pause. David Hunter. So, watching David Hunter's opinion has helped me make money. Not because I'm all in and saying, what he thinks is true, but there were multiple periods where I saw what the market was doing and I saw what he was saying, and I saw that what he was saying was being reflected in the charts. And most notably, it was October 2024, I believe, where I was, October 2023, where I was not shocked to see the V-shaped recovery to all-time highs after having a couple months of weekly downtrend. And his theses had me prepared to act bullish there and not fight the bulls. But anyways, just a different perspective, and definitely has me watching commodities and rare earth and things like that. But again, just watching where capital is flowing to and the rotation game is very fascinating for me. So now let's zoom in on some individual names and some subsectors and then commodities. Real quick again, just to highlight the earnings that are coming up, it's definitely Super Bowl week in the sense that we've got Amazon, Apple, Coinbase, Robinhood, Microsoft, Meta, just a ton of the heavy hitter names. So just be aware that that's ongoing, and any names that you have that may be correlated to that. FOMC also upcoming. So lots to be watching. But Tesla had earnings, bearish reaction, but a big bounce day on Friday. And this is a beautiful chart because it's an equilibrium. This is the 2-day time frame. Smooth it out. We've been tightening up for a while now. Big drop, big bounce to a lower high. Higher low, lower high. Bulls are hoping that the earnings reaction low is the higher low at 300. This 2-day equilibrium is going to break sometime early August. And how many more trading days do we have? Yeah, early August, most likely. And that's going to be the next big piece of information that we get from Tesla. I haven't gotten any new information from Tesla as far as bigger picture trends over the last month. That's going to change. I have traded Tesla less while it is tightening up within this range. I will trade Tesla more when this tightening range breaks. In an ideal world, it breaks bull because I make more money when it goes up. But we'll have to see. Bulls have proving to do. I'm watching short term for a potential 4-hour equilibrium, which would look something like that. But keep a close eye on this 2-day chart. Most important resistance is 338, but then you got to break the other levels ideally shortly after. Most important support is 300, but then the bears would have to break the other levels shortly thereafter. And again, we know volatility is coming into Tesla into August. IONQ, so quantum names. IONQ has a very clear resistance level and a very clear support level, and guess what? We're forming an equilibrium. Top out, higher low, lower high, pretty much a double top, higher low, pretty much a double bottom. So how this range breaks is going to have significant implications. If it breaks bear, that will be the monthly lower high shaping up. And then we'll look for the equilibrium on the longer term time frame. So much of my trading is anticipating equilibriums on different time frames because it's the most likely and most common pattern in markets. So again, the burden of proof is on bears, but definitely watching for that possibility. If bears break 4084 in the sector leader in terms of market cap, that's going to be meaningful. QBTS did get a new all-time high, but again, no real follow through. Now guess what? It's got an equilibrium. All-time high, higher low, lower high. We're going to look for a higher low compared to 1678, at least initially. This is the lead bull because it's already gotten all-time highs. But again, you look at names like RGTI, if it confirms this daily downtrend, that's going to increase probabilities of a monthly lower high. So again, burdens on bears, but if we see semiconductors cool off a bit, this is one place where I'm watching for potential bear action as well. Again, I've been saying it for a couple of weeks. There's been periods of relative weakness in this sector compared to the NASDAQ, but if the NASDAQ keeps going higher, the bears aren't going to get much follow through. Got to see that change. Uranium had another great week. So CCJ, all-time high, we're grinding here. It's a little double top right up at the high, but while we're trading sideways, right, we can say, we ended last week at 79, and we ended this week less than 1% higher. So a sideways week. While the leader goes sideways, the other names saw rotation. SMR had a monster move up, first down, but monster recovery, 27% from that daily higher low. Granted, from the close of last week, not a ton has changed, plus 3%. I'm still in a swing position, a third of my remaining swing position. Again, went long, switched from CCJ to SMR somewhere around here. Takes the profits, and now just walking the stop up. So stops under 42. I'm going to walk that up again later this coming week. OKLO had a big surge. This was a cup and handle type of pattern. All-time high, fail it, quick higher low, new all-time high. It had a strong close. So you look at it closing last week at 69, we're up 10%. And then you have other names like UUUU, still extremely strong. And E, trying to break out. I've got a couple rising wedges I'm watching in the sector, but that's only just me putting on my bear glasses saying, okay, everything looks bullish. I don't want to be blindsided. What should I be keeping an eye on to be cautious of? but obviously uranium's been one of the best performing sectors in 2025, and SMR and OKLO volatility is very high, but awesome for day trading as well. You just got to get used to it first a bit because it's illiquid. They move fast. Crypto stocks, coin, no red flags in this consolidation. Bitcoin traded sideways for a while. It broke bear with no follow through, so it's a potential weekly bull flag coming off of all-time highs. We know Ethereum is trading well. That's a potential daily bull flag. That's ETHA, but this is Ethereum itself. So very healthy consolidation after a massive breakout. So coin's still a possible bull flag. Bulls want to maintain 373 as support. MSTR pulled back much more significantly. It's a daily stair step, and there's a lot of space for a daily lower high to be the result of next bounce heading into earnings. Riot, the miner, still holding really well. So again, tightening up sideways is a bull's best friend after a breakout and trying to recover from being a lead bear. So definitely still, as long as Bitcoin stays strong, I am always keeping an eye on the crypto stocks. CRCL is tightening up. I'm looking for, that might be a bull play to start this coming week because I'm anticipating the most likely scenario is a tightening weekly range on CRCL. If we break 171, I'll be wrong, but maybe a play off that for a daily bounce to start this week. Daily stair step, if that can break bull, we'll look for a move up, maybe towards 220 to keep tightening up. Psychedelic names I've talked about a bit. So ATAI had another continuation move, but you live by the news, you die by the news. So this move up was due to data that came out. And from that point forward, we saw ATAI, again, very high risk, high reward, small cap, but it went up 85% from pre-headline. We had a headline after hours on Friday that was bearish, and so we dropped down to 3. We dropped 20%. So here we are heading into the next week, and we're going to be testing this resistance as support. So it's not breaking the long-term trend, but weekly consolidation is now underway. I mean, we just went up 100% since last weekly consolidation. So again, you got to be able to stomach. That's why the position sizes that I have in this sector are small enough where they can go to 0, whatever, but you have to be able to stomach 20% in both directions pretty quickly. MNMD was another one. It's testing a very key resistance zone. Can this be a cup and handle type of setup to get to 52-week plus highs? Watching for it. I've got some exposure here. Looking for a daily high or low, and CMPS is the other one. Is CMPS about to consolidate on the weekly after a 90% bounce and tighten up? Maybe that's on the table. So watching for the potential that the sector keeps consolidating, and also watching for rotation into cannabis. MSOS had a very bullish end of this week. And if you look at this resistance on the weekly time frame, this is a double top. You know what this reminds me of? Bull. Look at the bull daily. I still have a runner in this name as a swing position. But look at this top. And it was more of a double top. But again, the sideways balancing scales, putting in a bottom, you break the double top, and you shoot up 50%. So MSOS bulls are hoping that we're putting in a weekly sideways bottom that breaks bull. 323 and 338 are the must-break levels, and then bulls are hoping to shoot up 4+. So definitely keeping a close watch. The reason we're going up is because people think rescheduling news is coming soon. We got the new head of the DEA sworn in, Terrence Cole. No, that's wrong. I forget his name. Doesn't matter. And we also, people have been overexcited and wrong time and time again in this sector, but it does feel like there's a coordinated social media push from some influencers. It does feel like there's a little inside info out there, but got to break 323 and 338. It just got our attention. We had a nice tightening daily range, and Friday, high volume, very bullish action. We pulled back 5% intraday at one point and recovered. So keep an eye on MSOS this coming week. And if we get over 338, we'll say a long-term bottom is forming for now. We had a long-term bottom forming back in 2023 to 2024 as well, and then we rolled over, but definitely closer paying attention to this sector more so now than any time in the last few months. Gold weekly equilibrium, keep it simple. We rejected from resistance. Key support is 32.44. We can keep tightening up for another couple of weeks. The direction this equilibrium breaks is going to have significant implications into the fall, but no break yet. Silver, got to be cautious of a potential head and shoulders. So here's our move up, daily higher low, higher high lacks follow through, pretty big pullback. If we confirm a daily head and shoulders, we'll zoom out for weekly consolidation. Again, the remaining silver position that I have that I've been in for many months, I'm using the weekly as my guide at this point. Miners, GDX hit a new high with no follow through, or did we? Nah, double top. No, I got a new high, no follow through though. Positioned well if gold can break bull, but we got to wait and see how gold breaks there. Oil, as I've been mentioning, don't have a ton of clarity, but guess what? It's a daily equilibrium. So you can see how common the equilibrium is. I didn't pre-plan this and say I'm going to highlight a bunch of equilibriums. I'm doing my thing, and there's just constantly equilibriums everywhere. Daily chart. There's the low, lower high, higher low, lower high. We're heading down towards support at 64.71. If that breaks bear, the weekly bear flag remains on the table. Get good at recognizing equilibriums to save you money as they're forming, to trade within them as they're forming, and to trade them as they break. It helps me trade both directions. I'll trade a higher low. I'll take profit anticipating a lower high. I did it on ATAI after hours. I think it was ATAI. No, it was IXHL. This was another psychedelic name. Dilution News. Ran up hundreds of percent. Then it dumped 60% on Dilution News. So I don't know. This is the first time I've ever traded this name. I check in right about here. I say, okay, I'm scouting a play off of 49 cents, a higher low. I see this inside bar, and I'm in pretty much 66, 67. I anticipate a lower high is the most likely scenario. So my target to sell is, low 80s. Yeah, mid 60s. I sell a little bit in the 70s, but then low 80s because I know a 5-minute lower high is the most likely scenario. We then keep tightening up, tighten up, bull break. I should have kept a runner, but again, just a quick example of, just day trading, a little 5-minute equilibrium. Do good things. Click like. Check out stuff. Love you.